So, components of a cohesive lesson plan. So, first off, lesson plans should be created by both teachers collaboratively, which leads to a more smoother lesson. And they should be made with a particular co-teaching approach in mind, which we'll get to in a minute. And lessons should plan to work towards each teacher's role and responsibility so that they can teach towards their individual strengths whenever possible, again, to create the best possible lessons for students.
Discussions of accommodating lessons for students with IEPs or 504 plans. When creating lesson plans for these type of students, teachers should be aware of any 504 plans or IEPs that the students may have. Both teachers should be aware of any necessary accommodations or modifications required by the students or for the students. Co-teaching can be a great way to help modify, accommodate lessons and units for students with disabilities. Co-teaching allows for more individual small group attention that respond to this type of instruction.
So for I can statements, basically they should be just like you would do in a solo taught classroom. They should align with assignments, instruction, and assessments. And they should be written by both teachers to help ensure that the lessons and assessments are well aligned and both teachers can teach towards that. They should also be aligned with standards, for example, Common Core standards. And for special education students, sometimes the I can statements may have to differ in the level of mastery, which can be done by changing the depth of knowledge or lowering it on Bloom's taxonomy in order to keep them on track.
Classroom environment. The class environment should reflect collaboration and teamwork. Teachers should have both names displayed equally visible on the board. Teachers should practice sharing materials and space to help the lessons flow smoothly. Both teachers should begin and end class together to reinforce that they are a team. This can model good teamwork behaviors and strategies, as well as reinforcing the idea that both teachers are equal.
So for co-planning and communication, they really go hand in hand and keep the class flowing smoothly. By planning together and brainstorming any possible conflicts or confusion, the teachers will again just make sure the class flows smoothly and that their lessons are taught well. And it should be evident that both teachers are prepared for class and communicate well together, not only because it helps the class run smoothly, but because it also models good communication skills for the students.
Differentiated strategies, including technology. Co-taught lessons or classes should be just as differentiated, if not more differentiated, than solo taught classes. Having two teachers allows for multiple teaching strategies to be used at once. This also opens the possibility for different grouping based on learning modalities or teaching strategies to best reach each student. Technology can and should be incorporated into lessons as well. This can be done through stations using online resources, computer programs, online activities, or games.
So the 5 co-teaching strategies, the first one is one teach, one support. And so basically this is where one teacher's leading the instruction. Usually it's whichever teacher has more knowledge on the particular subject. And the support teacher will then be supporting the teacher in any way they can, as well as walking around the room, helping students and looking for any points of confusion that they can help address. And in order for this to work, both teachers need to know their distinct role and be able to execute it. And a problem that could happen is that if the same teacher is always the one leading instruction, the students might start to think that that teacher is more important or has more authority, which you don't want that in a co-taught classroom.
The second strategy is stations. With this, each teacher will work with small groups while having the students rotate to the different stations to complete different tasks. For example, you could have 2 tables for instruction with each co-teacher and a third table for work time for students. This allows the students to get different experiences with related instructions from the co-teachers. In order for this to work, it is important that the teachers communicate and plan out how much time each group is allowed to do their task before rotating.
And so team teaching is when both teachers feed off of each other's energy and both have a distinct instructional role. If this goes as planned, you can see it through well planned transitions in the lessons where both teachers are sharing responsibility and sharing each other's notes. If this works, it's really good, but proceed with caution because this is the hardest approach to implement because both teachers have to be very well prepared and communicate very well to not step on each other's toes and get jumbled up while trying to teach the lesson.
Alternative teaching from a classroom aspect, one teacher would take larger groups to work with while the other teacher would take a smaller group to work with. Each group would have different tasks to complete or do. As for teachers, they would work together to determine which groups have which students, talk about the objectives they want completed in those groups, and determine an assessment for the content that is being taught in their own groups. A problem that can happen with this approach is if the same students are always in the same groups, it defeats the purpose of a collaboration classroom.
And so the last co-teaching strategy is parallel teaching, which is kind of similar to alternative teaching, except the groups are usually more equal in size and the teachers communicate to plan who's in each group in order to make sure that the students are receiving the same instruction just in whichever way reaches them best. And a caution for this approach is that if the students aren't varied within the groups, they will see the same teaching style every time. And again, it kind of defeats the purpose of the co-teaching classroom.
Behavior management. This is incredibly important when co-teaching. All expectations and rules should be outlined and explained clearly by both teachers. Both teachers should be equally as stern and persistent in upholding the expectations of the classroom and following through with rewards and or punishments. This is incredibly important to keep the classroom running smoothly. If one teacher is less persistent or does not follow through with the consequences, the class can become hard to manage and students will take advantage of the split.
And so using collaborative language is just super important for co-teaching, not only because it helps the class run smoothly, but because words like we and our reinforce the idea that the teachers are equal. It can also help to model proper collaboration and teamwork skills for the students, which is very important. And when teachers don't use collaborative language, the students can start to view each teacher differently and treat them differently, which creates a divide in the classroom that nobody really wants and isn't good for the students.
Utilizing Elluminate for assessments. Elluminate is a great way to create assessments for co-taught classes. Elluminate makes it easy to accommodate and or modify lessons for students with IEPs or 504 plans. Elluminate offers features like text-to-speech, modifiable lessons, and online testing. Elluminate also offers data organizers such as graphs and charts using student test scores.
And then using the graphs of student test scores and charts, teachers can use that information to have discussions or to even just review it personally, and they can use this information to help reteach or redesign instruction where they can see that the students are falling short or not reaching their goals. And this can be done by either reteaching, regrouping, or a variety of different things depending on where the shortcomings are coming from. And that can be seen, again, through the data and through the graphs and charts that Elluminate will create for you.
Discussion on grading and the teacher of record. Students should be graded equally and fairly. This can be done by having very informative rubrics for anything where there is not a clear right or wrong answer. Anything that is in question should be addressed by both teachers collaboratively to ensure fair and equal grading for all students. One teacher will be the teacher of record, which means that they are the one who technically puts the grade in the gradebook. Teachers should aim to collaborate so well that nobody can tell who is the teacher of record. The teacher of record is usually determined by seniority, but does not necessarily matter as long as the teacher is qualified.
And that's all.